Welcome everyone to another episode of CoinList Chats. I'm Scott Keto. I'm head of strategy at CoinList, and this is a show where we feature some of the most influential leaders in blockchain, some of the most innovative protocols. And today I'm really excited to have Ocean back on CoinList Chats. They were actually our first ever episode, almost 2.5 years ago now, when we were running the token sale with Ocean. Back in 2018, we had Bruce on for 2 shows, one with his co-founder Trent and one with Richard, who's a VC at Fabric Ventures. And I'll let Bruce introduce himself and the protocol and everything, and we'll get started.
Great. Nice to be here. Thank you for having us again. I'm Bruce Pon, one of the founders of Ocean Protocol.
Awesome. So maybe I'll just kind of get started with kind of learning what's the backstory on Ocean. We were just talking before this. You said you got started in 2013, which is, now it's ages ago. So how did you get started thinking about Ocean and what you're building?
Yeah, 7 years ago, we started on this journey, and it was originally an idea to put intellectual property on the blockchain. We had started with putting IP on the Bitcoin blockchain. Back then, it was this concept of colored coins or kind of tainting different parts of the Bitcoin blockchain for copyright claims and such like that. We pivoted into BigchainDB because it was clear that Bitcoin was not a data transport mechanism. So we thought, okay, well, let's build that. We built a company called BigchainDB that was a decentralized data database for metadata that got pretty good traction. But when we looked forward to the very kind of where does this all lead to, it was very clear that AI, data, and crypto, there was some sort of holy trinity there, because if you can make data available for an actual specific purpose, like AI, which was just barreling down the train tracks, and then put it on crypto rails, we thought that that would be some way that would allow kind of an unlocking of a new data economy. Because what we saw also was that the centralized platforms were kind of sucking up a lot of consumer data, and we felt that crypto, with its decentralized properties, was going to allow people to kind of get back control of their data and their property.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That shift from Bitcoin to BigchainDB. How did you kind of come towards building on Ethereum and that protocol as the base layer?
So we had worked a lot in the 7-year kind of history of understanding all the various protocols from Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then many of the other ones. And we'd also worked a little bit with, at that time, Polkadot, like Parity, Cosmos. We'd use the Cosmos, the Tendermint consensus mechanism. So we'd use all the different pieces. And the reason why we chose Ethereum in this most recent release, Ocean V3, was because it has absolutely the most adoption, the most developers, the most integrations and support. It's just hands down the clearest. We knew that there are some trade-offs like gas costs, congestion, all that sort of stuff. But if you want to focus on product market fit, then you try to obfuscate all the complexities that might get in the way. And so Ethereum made a lot of sense. Ocean V1 and V2, they were actually on a proof of authority network. And that was good to really build out all the pieces and to know what needed to be done. But it was just clear that if we could focus purely on the data sharing, kind of an operating system on top of Ethereum, that would be a much better use of our time and resources.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've seen just on our side a lot of new protocols, and one of the biggest challenges for them in terms of adoption is just the developer resources that are available, the stability that's been available on Ethereum for such a long time, and kind of putting that to the side, allowing you to focus on what you guys really want to do, rather than trying to attract new developers or relying on a kind of a more nascent community. I think made a lot of sense. What was the network what was the V1 and V2, the proof of authority? What was the protocol, or was that your own, or what was that?
Yeah, we built all the components on our own. We had experimented with like Tendermint consensus protocols, so we had a very good idea what the types of components you needed to do a proof of authority network. But I think we took the knowledge, so it's similar to something like Energy Web Foundation or any of these other proof of authority networks. where you just have kind of the client software, and then everybody could download that and then become a node. So we ran that. We had a couple other entities that were running some nodes and stuff, but just the onboarding for developers and stuff, it was just an extra layer of complexity that didn't, it got in the way of people just trying out the product. So with Ocean V3, which just came out about 5 weeks ago, going on Ethereum, MetaMask wallets, you have automated market makers, you have the exchanges, you have just this data Legos, we call it, you know, you can call it financial Legos in the DeFi world. It just, everything fits together. So we can go a little bit more into that, but it's a very powerful concept for us just to obfuscate and simplify everything that doesn't relate directly to data sharing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, well, we should talk about V3. What is, you know, maybe we can frame it in the lens of CoinList and Ocean's partnerships over the years. You know, we worked together in 2018, as I was saying earlier, the frigid, deep, dark bear market of that time. And now we're, you know, out in 2020, it feels like spring is finally here and everyone's excited. What's that, you know, period been like in between and this road to getting to V3 that you just released?
So it's been a very difficult road. I'm just be completely honest. We've actually survived 2 crypto winters now since 2013. True. So but it's never fun. Since we started kind of the collaboration with CoinList until then, what we did was the winter hit. It sucked all the energy out. It sucked a lot of the financing out, the resources. So we had to be very, very lean. And we were just fighting for survival for most of the last 2 years. And trying to focus on the core technology and turn the trust of the community and the funds into something that could be a legacy. As we came out of the crypto winter, close to the beginning of this year, things started to turn up, and then the resources starting to be more plentiful. The community got reinvigorated, the token price got better. And so we were able to have a little bit of a tailwind to help us get through the last few months. But I think the core thing was just focus on the technology and focus on nurturing the community, strip out everything else, and be as lean as possible with everything. So that's pretty much been the last 18 to 24 months. I think I said somewhere else, it's been, you know, 7 years of chewing glass and about 6 months of fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that was, you know, that story is similar to a lot of other protocols and also just a lot of companies. I know, you know, for us also, bear market was a time to focus on building what we think is the vision for the, you know, our company, and being able to support, you know, protocols, not just at their, you know, fundraising event, but now, you know, with liquidity and other services like that. And having you or Ocean on our exchange is like one of, you know, things that we were building during that time. But it was a lot of, you know, bear with it, try to focus on what you believe in. And I think the companies and protocols that have succeeded have been, you know, returned to their kind of core vision and knew exactly what they're doing regardless of the market conditions, and continue to push. And yeah, 2 bear markets, that one, you know, it's amazing, you know, all the kudos to you to get through both of them. I mean, I think I don't know if many can say that they've survived both, you know, 2014 and then, yeah.
If I could interject, we actually took funding in Bitcoin in 2013, and that was in Germany. The bank didn't want to give us an account the moment we said that, but we took funding in Bitcoin in 2013, and then it promptly went from like $1,000 to $200.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that's well, I guess the one thing I'll say is I think you guys took dollars primarily in that token sale in 2018. So although I guess it was already on the way down, but not quite. If it was I think Ethereum was maybe like 600. It's obviously back there now, but that would have been another tough drop. So glad you took dollars in that one. Kept it going for a little bit longer. Yeah, I'm actually interested. You know, I do want to get to V3, and we'll definitely get there. Kind of curious about that 2013. You just mentioned that, you know, the banks didn't want to support you. What was the kind of that period of time like for you guys? What were some of the struggles?
It was pretty exciting. 2013, 2014. I mean, we started doing roadshows in 2014 era. And I remember walking down, I think, Madison Avenue in New York, visiting all the media companies and saying, this is new technology, can help protect your intellectual property. And all they could hear was Bitcoin, get this guy out of the office, right? This is what criminals use, all this sort of drug dealers, everything like that. So it was a tough sell. 2014, I mean, the world wasn't, it was obvious, right? The world's not ready, wasn't ready for it. And even now, 7 years later, we're now only finally getting, to Bitcoin as being a respectable, let's just say, currency that people are going to adopt. The rest of the blockchain space is going to take a couple more years. So we were definitely a decade early.
Well, a decade early, but building the whole time and setting yourself up for when the time is right. I mean, yeah, I'd love to hear about V3 and what you guys are building now and setting up for, if it's another few years for everyone to come along, but people are definitely using it now. So what have you guys launched with V3?
Really happy to talk about V3. It is the culmination of a lot of learnings over the last 7 years. So none of it was wasted. We got to know the entire ecosystem in the blockchain and crypto space. We were able to understand the technology and the design constraints. We helped kickstart things like token engineering, which is just verifying, validating token designs, just all that stuff. We're hopefully a good playing well with others in the entire space. And what V3 is it's the culmination of all that. It is Web3 native kind of technology where we use smart contracts to manage access control to data, which means that if you are a data publisher or a provider, you can kind of define the terms of how somebody's going to get your data, under what conditions can somebody consume it, and all that sort of stuff using smart contracts, which means you don't need a third-party vendor. You don't need Google, Amazon, Facebook, anybody to control that stuff for you. You just invoke a smart contract. We think that's already pretty innovative. But then on V3, on top of that, what we did was we built this concept of a data token, which leverages ERC20 tokens. And we have this thing called a data token factory. As soon as the data set is published, you can choose to create a supply of data tokens, which are publicly traded. So just like any other ERC20 token, they can go onto an exchange, a DEX, they can be used for collateral, all that sort of stuff. And what we did is we put that into like an AMM, automated market maker, like balancer liquidity pool. People put liquidity in, and that actually gives a real-time price prediction of the value of that data set. So the data token actually represents both the value of the data set, as well as it gives you access to the data set. So that kind of duality is pretty innovative, because what we're seeing now is that the market is getting better at pricing data in real time. So if we just go take a step back, how we got to V3, there's two questions we need to solve for Ocean. This is what we've always been trying to solve, and we never had an answer for. Number one is, how do you make it safe, secure, and comfortable for people to share data? That was Ocean V1. That was just the access control plus this V2, which was compute to data. It's allowing data to stay exactly where it is. The algorithms travel to the data, get computed on, and then the results leave. The data never got exposed, the data never moved, and that gives publishers comfort. That solves that first set: comfort, security, privacy. The second question that was the most perturbing, we didn't have an answer for, is how do you price data? What's the value of my data? If you look at probably 99% of the data out there that's not related to Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple, nobody knows what the value of their data is. What's the value of each of ours personal data from all the different social media sites? Nobody has a clue. It could be $100, it could be $1,000, but we don't know. So what we came upon in the idea in developing V3 was to say, let's put kind of a data token as a representation of, let's say, all your personal data on Earth, and let the market bet on it. And the market is betting on it. So it's going up and down depending on how fresh the data is, the perceived value, what use cases that data can be used for. And so on the Ocean market already, with part of V3, you're now getting kind of stock market dynamics on top of data, and that's been pretty cool. So we have a lot of action going on there, and that in a nutshell is V3.
That's really awesome and super fascinating for me. I mean, I am a finance guy originally, and I studied economics, and this is like, pricing of information or with limited information is just like really core to a lot of markets. Just like that's the reason that markets exist, is they price unknown information for people and share that with the world. What are some examples of data sets that are out there right now that are being priced, and how are people doing that price discovery? Obviously it's traded, but how does that shift over time? What have you seen happening?
Yeah, there's a couple observations. Number one, some of the main data sets out there is crypto data. About the current altcoin sentiment, the Bitcoin sentiment, social data that helps, I guess, traders to understand what's going on in the market. There's also now data about the data sets. So because this is just a nascent, new forming market, there's about a dozen startups that have built on Ocean in the last 4 or 5 weeks, where their purpose is to just develop analytics tools, just like a Mazari for the crypto space. There's now a Mazari being born for the data space. How do you price data? What are the tools? What are the analytics? How do you take a look at the liquidity in, the liquidity out, the publisher characteristics, the data characteristics, and all these things that you can tease. And I'm very comfortable and confident that the market is going to figure out all these tools, because now there actually is a market for publishers and consumers to come together, along with this dynamicism of real-time price prediction.
That's really fascinating. Do you have are there any examples that we can share with we'll post in the notes after this, like of places where people can go check out the different data sets and also some of these tools that you're listing?
Yeah, it's there is, so number one, market.oceanprotocol.com. That's where you're going to see all these data sets. And just from looking at the data sets, you're going to be able to see some of them that just says, data about the data sets. It's pretty clear from the titles. Most of these people, they've kind of self-identified themselves using verification tools, like for identity verification. So you can also tell by the price of the data set, they're typically higher. The ones that are more reputable, they have more liquidity, this type of thing. So that's where people can find out a little bit more. But Twitter is always a good place. If you just do the $ocean hashtag, you'll be able to find a ton of different kind of startups. Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's
really awesome. Going back to kind of just, who's been using this and all of this, I think you've mentioned that 7.5 million or so people are participating. How are they participating? Like, what are the customers and actors in this network? How's the economy of Ocean working out thus far?
So we're 5 weeks in now. The first few weeks were just madness. We had a ton of learnings, but just high level stats. We had about 500 data sets published in the first 4 weeks. We had 1.5 million page views, 30,000 uniques. It was madness on the market. But of course, there's also other learnings. People are understanding that these liquidity pools behind each data set, they're relatively low liquidity. So one move of liquidity either in or out could cause, what we call a rug pull. So somebody pulling out liquidity would cause kind of cascading losses. And that's something that, we put in measures to dampen, for sure, not take away, but definitely dampen. We saw impersonators. We saw a lot of IP infringements. We've been getting about 2 letters a week now from various people. Waymo sent us a letter. The World Intellectual Property Organization sent us letters. We got a lot of that stuff. So we've been figuring out all those operational processes on the back. And also we've been just seeing how the market responds. What are the dynamics when you set up a nascent market around sharing data? And so it's been a lot of learning for the community as well as the team. And we've just been trying to push out features every week to make it more fair for everybody. Just like anybody who has a marketplace, you want to have a level playing field for all participants. So that's what we're aiming towards.
That's really great. And as like an open source, obviously community marketplace, who do you view now as the kind of core customers, and who do you view as the core customers of this data marketplace going forward? How do you think about that?
So right now, it's very clear that it's the crypto community that is the core group. Just like in DeFi, it's the crypto community that asked for these DeFi products because they were sitting on a lot of ETH or Bitcoin, and they're looking for ways to turn that into value. So you had lending, collateralization, all these kind of cool things happening. In our space, with the Ocean market, you're having people who are trying to understand about data sets so they can be well positioned in the future when there's a lot more data coming onto the ocean market. These people will be the pioneers who understand how to price and value and work in the ocean market the best. And then from there, we're going to get small, medium-sized enterprises, startups, and a few kind of larger enterprises who are going to dip their toes in there, start putting in real data sets, keeping them fresh. And then the market's going to mature. You're going to have even better price predictions. So we imagine that anytime a data set gets onto ocean market, it'll take about an hour or two for the price to kind of rise and fall until it hits an equilibrium. And that's going to be a really happy medium when the community is big enough that they can kind of ingest every single data set that comes in and give a real-time price. And that will actually be one of the main value propositions that we give for any company or enterprise. You have data, you don't know what it's worth, put it on the ocean market, or at least a subset of that data. The ocean market will give you that value. And then maybe that gives you a new kind of idea on a distribution channel, but also a new way to deal with your current partners. Over time, at the very end, all this technology we have, crypto and blockchain, it's meant for a machine economy. Like, it's meant for humans to take back control of themselves, but this is all computer readable code. It's very clear that you're going to have algorithmic data buying bots who are going to be buying bots in the milliseconds and such like that very quickly, consuming a lot of data from ocean, processing it, ingesting it into the AIs, and then spitting back results. So over time, it'll be less and less humans who go onto the ocean market, and there'll be other kind of versions of ocean market where it'll be kind of geared towards AI trading bots or what have you, tracking the environmental stuff, healthcare stuff, supply chain stuff. All this stuff is all going to go away from individual humans, but and towards machines.
Yeah, I think well, it's already happening right now. I mean, the people ingesting data, it's primarily built by humans, but machines, AI and different models that people are doing. I think that's obviously the future. And then as you add a financial market into that, I mean, almost all financial markets are now, at least the liquid ones, are run by machines, programmed by humans. So the black box, so to speak. But I think that's definitely the future. Can you maybe talk a little bit more? I think it's kind of obvious, through this conversation, what the value proposition is for the data provider. Who are the consumers of the data, not just from like the marketplace perspective, but who are the people that you think are going to be using, or who's using it right now, and what the kind of future of like the consumer of the data, who wants to buy the data, and then what are the use cases for them once they've acquired it?
So the users right now, as I said, they're just the crypto people. One of the things that we acknowledged very honestly was that we didn't know necessarily enough about the data consumers, and there's honestly no way to know everything about all the data consumers because we don't have a transparent liquid market. Anybody who understands data, they're not talking a lot about it necessarily. The reason why we don't know the value of data is because it is illiquid. There isn't buying and selling. And so one of the things, the goals of the ocean market was actually to bring this all out into the open, to make it transparent, to allow an open market where data could start to be sold, and then see who shows up from which parts of the world, what types of data, all that sort of stuff. Naturally, of course, we have a strong affinity towards the crypto community, but at the same time, we're seeing data sets from all spectrum of industry and such like that. And so I guess the goal would be to get to the point where the data consumers and the publishers can feel safe to meet. This probably means that it's not like a human-oriented marketplace, but one of many thousands of kind of ocean markets. And then they'll be geared specifically for the use case, so financial data or healthcare data, supply chain, like I said. Our job, actually, the way I see it is, our job is to be a custodian for the core code and collect the requirements so that all these different use cases can be kind of realized, and then allow an ecosystem to form around it so entrepreneurs can start making money in specific areas because that opportunity is there.
That's the beauty of these open source communities, that you can help form it, but like where it goes from there, who knows? And actually that's the best part, is like they can figure out what the best use case is by building that infrastructure. They'll take it from there and find the best use case that neither of us could have ever imagined. What about back when you were partnering with us on the token sale. You had a few major partnerships set up. How are those going, or how do you think about some of those partnerships that you had with J&J or Daimler or Roche, or how is that part of the marketplace, and what are you doing with them?
So with larger enterprises, the objective there is to really understand what are the requirements that they have. Everybody knows that working with enterprises it's a long process. There's a lot of different gates that you need to go through to make something successful and go into production. And so we've kept engagements over the last couple of years with automakers and healthcare providers and such like that to really understand what it takes to get into production. We're getting closer and closer to that with Ocean V3, as well as working with our partners in the background. But the idea is that we don't take on more of these partners directly. Instead, we start enrolling system integrators like the Wipros of the world, the Accentures, the IBMs of the world. And as we start getting the demand from these larger companies who say, hey, I do want to share data and this sounds interesting, we can get them through that first let's say 3 months funnel just to let them understand. And then we hand them off to a large system integrator and say, okay, these guys will help you along your journey and we'll stick around for the architecture support. We really want to leave the vast majority of the economic pie available to the ecosystem and never have it so that Ocean Protocol as a foundation gets in the way.
That makes a ton of sense. What is the value prop that when you're talking to Daimler or J&J that you're kind of articulating for these large enterprises, why they should be using Ocean Protocol and getting data from you rather than going to their traditional data pools and data lakes that they've tapped through these other big enterprises?
Yeah, I think that most of these companies, they don't need a reason to share their data. They're just looking for ways to do it. They're looking for channels, tools, ways that they can onboard in a faster way that passes through all the gates that they need to pass. So it's not really that we have a value proposition that we need to sell to them. We just offer them a channel where they can start unlocking their data. And everybody understands this need to unlock data from their own company. They also understand the need to share data for better real-time information for whatever it is, logistics, things like what's happening with COVID. Everybody wants to have their supply chain as efficient as possible now because there's a lot of money on the line, and especially if you're dealing with medical products or something like that, real just-in-time is so critical to get right. And so that type of data sharing, they are looking for technologies, and every enterprise now knows that blockchain is kind of a core technology to allow that to happen, as well as with AI. So that's where Ocean is. It's the sweet spot. Data, blockchain, AI. It's exactly where the enterprises want to be. So the fact that we offer that technology, and we're probably one of the most advanced in the space because we've had, I had banking experience in the past. Trent McConaughey, the co-founder, had AI experience in the past, and now we've been working, of course, in the blockchain space for 7 years. There's a certain level of trust that we're the ones to talk to try at least map out the path, and we're happy to hand it off to PwC, KPMG, whoever it is out there. If anybody there is listening, just reach out to us. We'll happily bring you on as a system integrator.
Well, it sounds exactly like those IBM commercials. Just keep buzzword data, AI, blockchain. Let's do it right now. And they're selling to those their enterprise customers, and they're obviously, those are things that people are really focused on, or at least new technologies that they're trying to invest in and understand a lot better, and are going to be critical going forward. So I think it's the right pitch. If IBM is pitching it and you guys are the representation, then I think there's going to be some adoption over time. Has there been any hurdles in what are holding people back from those large enterprises from participating? Are there any things that they're concerned about, or why aren't more of them participating, other than maybe it's a novel technology and they're just unfamiliar?
So the way we looked at enterprises, and we've learned this all the way from 2013 till now, is that in an enterprise you need a dedicated team. So they have to have put resources behind there. they need to have someone who's a little bit crazy on the fringe, and I mean crazy in a good way, who's willing to risk their kind of career in order to push this through. And finally, that company has got to have kind of the resources to fund a project like this. If they have those three, kind of like a team, someone who's influential enough, plus the funding, then they can be a good sparring partner for us, because all the enterprises already know the 100 different use cases that could work within their enterprise. So we're beyond that right now. We're now into kind of like, what is the closest that we can take to pilot or production? And so that's what we're looking for. Not only have we been in the space pretty long, we don't want enterprise business. And I know that might be blasphemy to say, but we actively discourage our enterprises from working with us in a sense, right? We say, look, Ocean Technology is open source. You have a team, go at it. We'll help you and everything like that. And then they'll ask for additional consulting and support. And we said, no, we don't want to do that. I mean, we'll do it to get you over the hump, but we'd much rather that you use a system integrator in order to do this. And so the enterprises really want to learn this technology, as we talked about. It meets all of their criteria for unlocking their data, for leveraging AI in the future, and for turning data into value. They know that the technology works. They want to work with trusted partners. The system integrators, I don't think they're selling old school technologies. They're selling stuff from 5 to 10 years ago right now. And so we need to work with both the enterprises to get them to kind of an awareness level that they're willing to make a go at this. We also need to work with system integrators to train them and educate them that this is a new business line for them if they get into it. And so that's one of the challenges we have for 2021.
Yeah, that's you as you said before, you want the value to accrue to the whole network, not just to you guys. And also, pulling resources, from my own experience as well, pulling resources to working on these enterprise level, integrations, or really just, effectively it's like a years long sales pitch that may turn into nothing because they're just not ready for whatever reason, but they need so much data and so much information and so much hand holding. I think it makes a lot of sense to hand those folks over to the data integrators, but also push some of that value back to the community and allow them to really engage. I know something that's been it's always on people's top of mind at CoinList, or at least our users, is kind of the structure of the token and that ecosystem. You've spent a lot of time, and many versions, like designing the tokenomics and all the different pieces that go into it. Can you talk a little bit about the Ocean token, and also obviously you have data tokens now, and how that all kind of weaves itself together?
Yeah, just as a background, we were one of the progenitors of this token engineering movement. And that was this whole kind of design of tokens and verification of the tokens and how they would behave after you release them into the wild. We saw the kind of ICO craze in 2017 leading into 2018, and saw that most of them didn't really have token models that were unique or fit to what the protocol was meant to do. And so around, I'd say, beginning 2018, we started this movement called token engineering. It's now got 3,000 or 4,000 practitioners around the world. It's off the work of people like Mike Zargam, Joel Monegro, Chris Berniska, all these folks. And we took all this information together, and we set up communities around the world to do this. A bit selfishly, actually, because we knew that Ocean token needed a good token model if it was going to be sustained in the long term. And that's what we want. We want Ocean protocol to be the default currency for a new data economy. And so Ocean token engineering was actually a tool for us to get intelligence for all the best token designs on Earth, and to learn from that, and then inject the parts that matched Ocean's needs into the Ocean token. So that's the background. But so the Ocean token itself has got 4 or 5 different dynamics. We have network rewards that go into the Ocean DAO, and the Ocean DAO is a grants giving mechanism to fund development of products and services around Ocean, whether it's community, tooling, integrations, new applications, new marketplaces. Ocean DAO is going to be able to fund all that stuff because there's network rewards that are generated.
That just launched very recently, right? That was
it just launched last week, or this week even.
Congrats.
Yeah, we're moving pretty fast. Yeah, thank you. So we'll get the first batch out this year. They'll be funded, and we're going to do every single month, and then all the community can vote on that. We also have from the Ocean market a portion of the proceeds. In fact, all of it goes back towards the community for the funding. So that's kind of 2 channels. We also have a burn mechanism that tampons down inflation. So if the consumption is happening on the ocean market and there's a lot of trading going on, a certain amount of ocean tokens will get taken out of the supply. So that dampens whatever new inflation is coming in. The ocean token itself is used to trigger the smart contracts. It is the logical pair for every single data token. So every data token that gets released has an ocean pairing by default. So that's how we see ocean being kind of the default currency for the data economy. And finally, as like any other ERC20 token, you can use it for Travala, you can use it for payments, exchange of any product or service, particularly data, I'd say.
Yeah, that's it's all great. Can people pair the data sets with other ERC20s? Is it limited to just the ocean pairs?
The data tokens, we've already seen some data tokens jump out of the ocean market and get injected into Uniswap paired against ETH.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. I mean, that's like it's like going on a life of its own.
That's exactly what we wanted. We wanted some of the early data tokens to get to a level of maturity where they had sufficient liquidity, where they and adoption that somebody would actually want to start trading that on Uniswap. So we're happy to see that.
Yeah, and the DAO that just launched a few days ago. Do you have any sense of what grants or what are you targeting? If anyone's out there listening who's looking to be building and might need some support, or what are you looking to help fund with some of the grants from the DAO?
So this first round, I believe it's 25,000 just to get it going, because we're working out the mechanics. Just like we released the ocean market and we're just learning. We want to see how the DAO works. We've taken learnings from all the other ones out there, like Aragon, Metacartel Ventures. There's a couple other ones that are grants giving, and we're trying to get that up to about 500,000 by the end of next year. So 500,000 a month by the end of next year. So by that time, you could fund probably 25 teams concurrently by the end of next year, and that's our target.
That's awesome. And how do people participate? Obviously it's a DAO. You're not the only participant. How do community members and participate in DAO and selecting grants and all of that stuff?
We have a weekly call where people can talk about the various proposals that are coming up, ask questions. We have kind of core team members and founders who are going to be available every single week. But then once a month, there's a tempo where kind of the funding round opens, the proposals come through, the community votes on it using the amount of tokens that you have. That's another use of the token, an actual voting mechanism. And OPF, the Ocean Protocol, has kind of committed not to vote, right? Because it would be such an overwhelming vote. And so it truly is the community that is choosing the projects that get funded over time. And we assume we're going to learn a lot. We'll make some mistakes and we'll tweak it.
Yeah, I mean, that's life at a startup. Learn a lot, make some mistakes, and improve for the next one. You don't succeed for 7 years and live around for 7 years without making some mistakes and learn. And if you don't learn from them, you're not going to make it very far. When is the first vote scheduled? Or when do you expect to start doing grants?
December 21. Grants will be out December 22. Yep. Oh. So anybody can go. There's just go to oceanprotocol.com and then you can look for the Ocean DAO. And we have an open GitHub repo where people can start submitting stuff. All the Zoom link is all in there. So yeah, that'd be great if anybody on this call can join.
Yeah, we'll share those links and invite people to submit projects and participate. Maybe we'll start to open it up for Q&A in a few moments, but maybe I'll leave it with you. Is there anything that before we get to Q&A that you really want to talk about or I missed in this conversation so far?
No, let's open up the Q&A. This is typically my favorite part.
Okay, great.
Where we get the live questions.
Are you able to see the Q&A? I'm happy to select some for you, or you can pick some, whatever you prefer.
Normally I have somebody moderate that, then I can just focus on the answer.
Yeah, I'll read some. So this one comes from anonymous attendee. Mysterious. You mentioned that one day you could see thousands of marketplaces forking off of Ocean. Will these markets be using the Ocean token or possibly using a fiat on-ramp? Yeah, that's the question.
In general, they would be using an ocean token. I think one of the advantages of an open source community is that it's not going to be a core ocean protocol foundation that runs amok. It won't accrue so much power and control, and that's what we want. We want the community to have all the power. And so the glue that keeps everything together is the ocean token. So we are incentivized to do whatever it takes to keep the community together and to nurture a healthy and broad community. If we fail at doing that, then somebody will want to either fork the ocean project or the ocean token, or when they build a new marketplace, they just won't have ocean as the default currency. So that is with all crypto projects. We've seen that where the ones that thrive have a certain cohesiveness, and the token is the unifying factor. And so the longer the ocean token survives, and the healthier the community gets and the more vibrant it gets, that's a good sign that we're doing things generally in the right direction.
I have a kind of a unrelated, but also related question. Obviously the big news, some of the big news this week was ETH2 getting started. How are you guys thinking about that transition? I fully expect, it's crypto. There's going to be a fully supported ETH, not ETH Classic, but ETH1 and ETH2 at some point in the future. People are going to just do it. How are you thinking about transitioning to ETH2? I know it's early in the days, but do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, we haven't looked at the ETH2 transition yet. I assume that there's going to be some sort of locking and mint mechanism, like lock and mint into the ETH2 world. And we'll be ready for that. For a certain amount of time, maybe a year or two, would probably have to have a ocean market supporting both, and then gradually turn it off. What we have been also looking at is, of course, working on other chains, like, for instance, Polkadot, Cosmos, Solana, Near, Binance Smart Chain, all of these. We think that Ethereum is fantastic for the initial kind of product market fit, but everybody knows the gas fees are pretty expensive. You get some congestion occasionally, and that slows things down. So as those other protocols and communities mature, we'll definitely have kind of an ocean inspired ocean market on top of those. So you can have kind of, let's say, high frequency, low latency trading of data happening at low cost.
Makes a lot of sense. I can go back to some more of the question and answers. This one's from James. He's curious to hear, and I'm unfamiliar, so I'm also curious. Can you talk a little bit about how your deal with the German central bank came about and where you see that developing to?
Nope.
Okay. Fair enough.
So we've never announced anything. I think the community has found the German central bank is a public institution, so there are certain aspects where they are obligated to publish information that's open, but we are not allowed to comment on anything.
Okay, fair. Apologize for asking. Didn't realize it was
No. Absolutely not. Please, I appreciate that.
Another question, and I'm also given the political climate right now, someone's asking about have political parties anywhere in the world inquired about using ocean data for election purposes, or have you seen any like data sets popping up in usage around, election information or demographics and stuff like that?
Yes. So ocean market went live October 27th. US election was, I believe, November 3rd. I think by November 4th, there was a complete data set of everything. I think in Georgia, might be a different jurisdiction. I might have missed something, but people were posting election results and saying, if you have any questions and you want to do some analysis, here it is. Good. This is exactly what we wanted Ocean for.
Do you have any do you have any concerns about like election data or like that kind of stuff? Or there's always, I would assume Ocean is a safer version of like those data sets than they would otherwise, be controlled by some of these large corporations. How do you think about political data, sensitive data like that within the Ocean protocol, potential for misuse, or just is it a better way to store data and analyze data?
So Ocean never stores data. The data always Right. I think one of the biggest challenges we have in the blockchain world and the smart contract world is just the smart contracts do as instructed. The data is as the data is. And so there's this increasing need to have kind of oracles for for data feeds, but also verified data sets, whether it's already at the chip level or it's from IoT devices that have some sort of machine identity. As we move forward into kind of a more machine economy, you're going to see more kind of verified data flows and data feeds running through oracles into blockchains. And this data will be tradable, it'll be sellable, there'll be a price to it. And so we don't have a perspective on the types of data. We just know that everybody's going to have different incentives. Some people are going to want to misinform, some people want to just lay out the facts. We're not getting into all that. We just want to make those pipelines as efficient as possible so that that data can get out, and then let the algorithms go. Because the type of data that we think this eventually goes to is data that you can run algorithms on top of. And so if you have data that misinforms and such like that, it's just going to come out with bad algorithms. And that algorithm also will probably be able to notice that the data is bad. Algorithms, like the data scientists behind algorithms, they'll be able to say, well, this is anomalous data. It doesn't make sense. And you'll be able to see the fraud. So maybe a way to answer this is Ocean, if it runs properly and we open up all these verified data feeds, will allow data scientists to find bad data faster and get it out. It'll also allow them to call out bad data in a provable way. So that's an optimistic perspective. I'm sure there's some dystopian viewpoints.
Well, I think actually the marketplace actually helps you solve for this as well. You know, if there's a bad data set out there, or if people are running algorithms on top of it, and many of them at the same time, and they realize that there's a bunch of like data that doesn't fit the other patterns, that data is not worth very much to the people that actually want it. So if it's misinformed data, the price is just naturally going to decline, and that's going to be an indicator towards, other people who are looking at using this data that, oh, this one is not very valuable data set, so maybe we don't start with that one, or maybe we just never use this one at all for the type of data that we're trying to analyze.
Exactly. I mean, that's the perfect answer, because the market is the best reality machine in the world. And if you have to pay for something, if you have to price something, and it goes into a valuable algorithm, you're not going to pay for shit. Right? So all this misinformation people are worried about on Twitter or Facebook and all that sort of stuff, that is stuff that fools the human brain. It never fools the machine brain, because the machine brain knows, like, if it's being fed stuff that doesn't work. And so I'm actually optimistic that helps to clean up the data, helps us identify bad data. Maybe in an ideal future, it helps to clean up the political systems.
Yeah, I think anyone who's building businesses or just trying to actually make accurate predictions, and models, or just, bad data it's just never going to succeed. Like, that's not a useful, like, you can have misinformation out there on Twitter, but anyone who's trying to do anything real and legitimate is just never going to accept that. And it's just going to, I think the marketplace model just works so well for that, working out some of that badly informed information. Going on to another question, how many people are on the Ocean team now? What's the growth rate been? And
So when we started, we actually scaled up quite a lot, and we also realized that is more complex. So we took this mantra starting in mid this year of community first. Whatever we could do, or whatever we wanted to do, we always looked first to the community to see if it could be done by them. So whether it's the ambassador program, outreach to enterprise, building different pieces of the functionality. We have this thing called Ocean Academy. There's this group of enthusiasts in Twitter and stuff like that. We could have done all that stuff, and we chose not to. We said, okay, is there some way that a community could do this instead, and can we encourage them? And that's what we're trying to do. So our goal is to kind of go the opposite of Kawas's theorem of the enterprise. We're not trying to get big. We're not trying to serve enterprise. We're not trying to do any of that stuff. Our job is to get to a perfect little size of about 10 to 20 people to build that core software, provide the tip of the spear, the inspiration to the community, as well as the hooks and the tools that they need to go out and build their own company, as well as the resources. And so we're now getting, as I said, about a dozen companies that have started up. Some have already started to apply for this Ocean DAO or our internal incubator program. And we want that. We want, by the end of next year, at least 25 companies that have been funded, maybe more, 50 or so, and they become the kind of core of the ocean community. And then of course we'll always be there. So what are we at? 10 to 20 people right now.
10 to 20 people, but the real goal is a huge community that's doing, living that open source idea, building their own things and moving it forward outside of just you guys, which is exactly what you want.
Yep.
Going to another question, kind of related to some comments you had previously, and topical these days. Are oracles necessary to the functionality of the Ocean protocol?
No, not right now. I mean, Oracle data is important. So pretty much everything in this world leaves some sort of data trail. And for whoever that could make money off of it, that data trail, whatever it is valuable. And so Oracle data trail is just better data. It's verified data. It's been, if it's like a Chainlink Oracle, you have like kind of 3 out of 5 verifying it, this type of thing. So you're pretty confident that that will be good data. And so that's the way we see Oracle data. So just to kind of give you a preview of what we would like is if we had a direct integration with Chainlink, every single Oracle feed going into Chainlink could then be monetized. So all of a sudden you have like 10,000 data tokens for Chainlink.
That would be awesome. I think that's as an immediate use case, it's a very obvious one. Not a lot of the early adoption, as you said, not just with you guys, but across the board, is like these early crypto adopters and different financial applications. And so I think that would be, that'd be awesome. I think that's great. Someone out there should go do that right now.
Totally. In fact, that's part of the Data Economy Challenge, build an integration with Chainlink. Where does this lead to? Imagine an ETF for Chainlink oracles. Like imagine owning all 10,000, it's like the S&P 500. You have every oracle on Chainlink, or at least the top 1,000 or the top 20, and you've securitized that. Like then people start like buying shares of that. They start collateralizing that, using those shares for lending. You can build a complete data economy on stuff that we already have right in front of us.
That's awesome. I'm really excited for that. I think that's, that's as you said, data has historically been an illiquid asset for the most part, and making it liquid, available to everyone to participate in, and then it becomes its own financial instrument. Data is one of the most important resources in the world at the moment, and has always been, but even we have so much data now, more so than we ever had before, and available to monetize it is just, I can only imagine the different financial applications that will come out of that. Moving on to another question. Are users able to stake against specific data sets? What is the staking implementation method, and what incentives will be there for participants?
So the first 4 weeks, we've been just learning how the ocean market works. We now have a pretty good idea of the dynamics. We have a more level playing field for everybody. And so even at the very start, people could stake on any data set that they wanted to. As I just mentioned, we don't have it where you can stake on like an ETF of data sets yet, but we think that that's going to happen pretty soon. So how does it work? It's just like any other balancer pool. You need to take a look at the liquidity, the quality of the data set, ensure that the downside risk of a rug pull is minimized, that type of thing. Yeah. So that's kind of your downside risk stuff. The incentives is you get a cut of all transactions, which for some of these data sets, because there's a lot of trading on, you can actually earn quite a bit. And then we're looking at some sort of ocean staking program once we've kind of built out the ocean market into a more mature level playing field. So then we'll have some sort of program to encourage people to stake on data. 2021.
Cool. 2021. Soon enough. Yep. I mean, it's
soon enough.
I'm not going to promise it for everyone 2021, January 1st, but it's coming up soon. It's, I think this next question came out of when we were talking about ETH2, and also you were talking about other layer ones that you've worked on in the past. Are you considering moving to any new chains? And if not, what might cause such a catalyst?
So I think a lot of it is community demand for a new chain. as well as the maturity of the destination chain. So Ocean is an operating system on top of any L1 chain. So you can plop it on Ethereum, then you take it to another EVM compatible chain like Polkadot. You can move it over to Solana or Near, even Binance Smart Chain. You can do all that stuff. So Ocean's going to be on all these chains. The top candidates that we've been looking at were XDAI network as well as Polkadot. These are the two that kind of made sense, but there's other ones that could pop up. We're seeing how those ecosystems develop. So yeah, stay tuned. Those are the two top ones. Yeah.
And the catalyst you're saying is mostly like community demand that would kind of push that transition.
Yeah. There's going to be some sort of data marketplace which requires much lower latency than what ETH1 and ETH2 can provide, lower cost, this type of stuff. And so when that use case kind of emerges and it's too expensive on this Ethereum chain, it's just logical that we create some sort of Ocean market clone and Ocean contracts on other chains.
That's super interesting. And in terms of like, as you monitor the development on Polkadot, or what are you looking for in terms of like, ecosystem growth that would make you feel like other than, the catalyst of, it's not efficient on ETH, but like, what do you need to see on a new chain to feel like, we're ready to make that transition over?
I think some of the stuff that we think are just table stakes for Ethereum now. So automated market makers, wallet support, the token bridge where you can easily bring tokens over, MetaMask integration, Infura, these types of things, right? Like so it's more just the hardware, and it's being built. There's no doubt about it. All this stuff, it's very clear. You can just copy and paste the code type thing, and then customize it to the local chain. And so I'm optimistic that sometime in 2021, Ocean will be on one or more of these other chains. But if we get onto the other chains and there's not the wallet support, or there's not the AMMs and all that sort of stuff, or even the volume, the trading volume that would happen natively on those chains, and then it's a little premature.
Yeah, okay, makes a lot of sense to me. Well, I think we got to an hour, so I just want to say, a really big thank you for joining me today. I certainly learned a lot, and I think it's been a great conversation, and we're really excited to be part of the Ocean family, CoinList, and working with you, since your 2018 token sale, working with you now, and we look forward to participating in the data economy as well going forward.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing the first kind of CoinList data set on the Ocean market.
Oh, it will come, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Take care. Thank you. Have a good day.